Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the PokerNews podcast. I'm your girl, Sarah Herring, joined by Chad Holloway and Jeff Platt, here to give you guys the latest and greatest, the news about the poker town. Chad has an interview with us with Faraz Jaka. Chad, you just came back from a live poker tournament, OMFG. Please tell us everything.
I did. It was about 24 hours ago when I got home. I was in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, actually just across the border in Iowa. There's a casino called Grand Falls. It is just literally, you could throw a stone from the parking lot over the border. Well, maybe not quite literally, but it is like a mile away or less than a mile. So it's considered Iowa, but really the market is more Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Anyways, I digress. There was a $1,100 buy-in Mid-States Poker Tour, the first live event for a mid-major in the United States since almost 6 months, since towards the beginning of March. And so we were curious, like, is this going to be a big event? Are people going to stay away? And we got our answer in that it was a resounding success. So I've worked the MSPT Grand Falls many times in the past. The biggest field they've ever gotten there was 238 entries over 2 stars. It's a smaller casino, a smaller region. We could never really pull in players when I was working for the MSPT. Well, they got, between 2 flights over the weekend, 518 entries. Wow. So basically equaled their record in each from 2 flights. They got that amount in each flight. It was crazy. There was obviously a huge demand, and we had players coming in from Florida. A big contingent drove up from Chicago, which was like a 10-hour drive. A bunch of players from Colorado flew in. And it was obviously just a huge demand by players to play some live poker.
So what were the precautionary measures? Like, how did it seem different, if it did seem different to you covering the event?
Sure. I mean, it was very similar to what we've seen in the past as far as just being a regular tournament, with 2 notable exceptions in that they required players to wear masks. That was, a state mandate. And they were really good about being strict on it. If a player had it off for too long or came in without one, they were right on top of it, which I think was great. There wasn't a lot of pushback from players in that regard. They seemed to respect that rule that in order to play, they're going to have to wear a mask. Few people were unhappy with it, but I think they had to issue like 1 warning the entire weekend over it. The other was that the tables were spaced much further apart than you would normally see in a poker tournament setting. Fortunately, they had the big event center, which we mentioned in the last show, so they were able to do that. It did play full-handed. On day 1, it was 10-handed. On day 2, they went to their traditional 9. So in that regard, it was the same. There was no, plexiglass in between each seat or anything like that. It was just players really being mindful and respectful of, the mask policy and using hand sanitizers. I was set up at a media desk, and we had every table in there had, hand sanitizer, and I've seen players using it all the time. And it just seemed to me that players were grateful for the opportunity to be able to play again. So they were really following the rules and trying to do their best to make sure that, everyone was feeling as safe as they could.
So now I'm curious, and Sarah, I'm also curious to get your thoughts. At this point, as Chad said, absolutely a success, right? Huge turnout, incredible prize pool, more than 107K up top. That's awesome. So now tournament organizers across the country are probably, enhancing their plans to put on live events. But it'd be nice if there was a, like a contact tracing source. So maybe we'll have Chad Holloway run that. So Chad, you just stay in touch with all of these players. And then over the next 2 weeks, you tell us if there was any kind of coronavirus outbreak. Because that will be the point of true success, right? Is that we know that everybody played with masks on. They were 10-handed, then they were 9-handed. The tables were a little bit spaced out. And then everybody was fine a couple weeks later. I think that will be the main account of whether or not this tournament went really well.
Yeah, I mean, I joked during the event that this is a great success, but if the winner of the tournament catches COVID-19 and in 2 weeks from now, that's going to be a very bad thing. But I mean, obviously that'll be the true test in a couple of weeks to see if anybody there came down with it. I mean, there's no, as far as I know, like, no sort of tracking, not just here in this poker tournament, but just in the country in general.
Just in the U.S.
Like there's, I mean, how are we going to know? Like, even if somebody comes down with it in a couple weeks, they aren't going to, maybe they got it at the grocery store. Maybe they got it from a family member. Maybe they got it playing poker. Who knows? And I think that's kind of, I don't know, the state of affairs right now in the United States. And, Sarah, I'd be curious to get your thoughts. I know that, you've had COVID. You're the one most qualified to talk about it here.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of like what we talked about last week, where at this point, I'm just like, it should be up to people, up to you. Like, I think it's pretty clear that this is not going away anytime soon. And so it's kind of like, I think there was this idea, we were going to slow things down. We're going to pump the brakes. We're going to try to do what we can. I would say at this point, it's kind of like, okay, well, we may or may not be able to ever like stop or slow this thing down. So let's just like up to you, kind of live your life however you would within reason. I do think, as annoying as wearing the masks are, especially now, I'm like, dude, I got the antibodies. Like, I don't need the mask, but I still wear the mask. I think it freaks a lot of people out if you don't. And, who wants to just freak everyone out? I'm curious though, one of the things that I've really noticed since in my county now, everyone has to wear masks really everywhere. And I have had a lot of issues just talking to people, like making orders or just doing normal things. And I think I was curious, I guess, in the situation of poker, obviously, like paying attention to whose turn it is to act, giving change. There's a lot of scenarios where, I think having good communication is very important. Did you find that everyone wearing masks muddled things up in any way, or did it seem everyone was able to kind of push right through?
I mean, I think it's a challenge that everybody has to be aware of. I don't think it impacted the tournament in any spots or anything like that. No big issues. You just have to be sure that you're being a little more clear. If you didn't understand something, ask. I know for me, just interacting with the players, asking a name for the updates, things like that. Sometime I had to get them to repeat it twice or something because there was that little bit of a barrier. The dealers at this particular stop didn't have masks that were, covering their mouth and nose. They had the face guards or whatever you want to call it, and they were clear. And I think that might have made might have ended up being a good decision as far as I don't know how great those are at blocking and the science behind those, but as far as logistically in a poker tournament, I think they were great in that players were able to see the dealer's face and mouth, and I don't know, it just seemed like there was some good communication there. Quite a few players had those as well, and so that was interesting. It was just interesting to see the different face guards as a whole throughout the tournament, the different styles, if you will. If you look at the winner's photo, coming out on top of that 518 entry field was Mark Collins. He was actually a former MSPT champ, won the Canterbury stop at the in 2018, I think. Here he is again winning, and in his winner's photo, he's got a big neck gaiter over his whole mouth, down through his neck, down to his chest almost, with some aviators. It's these are the new modern day winners photos I think we're going to see for what live events we do have on the calendar.
It's so wild. I even just on Twitter yesterday, I saw something. It was, showing like some people at their concert, like Lady Gaga and Ariana Grande or something, whatever, some people, but it was like musicians doing their performances with masks on. And I was just thinking, it's such a bizarre transition now that we've made to where, there was a time where if you were wearing a mask, people might think you were there to like rob the place, right? But now if you don't wear a mask, people are like, whoa, who's this freak out here? And it's a little bit of a weird sort of apocalyptic world we're living in now at this point. It's really bizarre. And the thing with the face masks is very interesting or the visor mask, I don't know what they're called. But I was speaking to a friend who's a teacher in the school districts here, and they were initially issued, all of the teachers were issued those, clear face protection things. And then they ultimately sort of like revoked that as being enough. And now they have to wear the masks and the face protection things, and they have to teach on Zoom while they're teaching the kids in the classroom. I was like, this is a nightmare. Like, I can't even... Good night. But yeah, I don't know what the science is on those things, but they do seem slightly more probably pleasant if it's, say, hot, or if you're trying to actually communicate with people. I don't know. Well, we've got a lot of GG action to cover. We are grinding this one out. We are coming to the bitter end, and The main event is already down to 38 players. But before we talk about who's still left in this 38, we want to give a shout out to GGPoker, who has been a sponsor of the podcast for a pretty solid amount of time now, and also has sponsored our live reporting coverage of the World Series of Poker. So big thanks to them, and definitely check out you can get some awesome deposit bonuses and other bonuses through PokerNews. So I just go to the search engine. You know, I'm in America, so I can't just follow the direct links, but I go to the search engine in PokerNews and click GGPoker. You should be able to find the click-throughs there. Dude, super excited to see my boy, Bryan Piccioli, right?
How about that? The chip leader going into day 3 of the main event. 5,802 entries for this one. Throughout the last couple of weeks, we've questioned, whether or not they would hit their $25 million guarantee. And I think all of us were pretty confident that they would, but I don't think any of us had them blowing it out of the water. A total prize pool of more than $27.5 million. That makes this the biggest online poker tournament in history, which of course will come with the biggest first place prize of more than $3.9 million. And it is the czar, the 6th place finisher in the 2017 World Series of Poker main event, who is the chip leader going into day 3. They paused the tournament on Sunday after they hit the final 38 players. They plan to play down to 40, couple eliminations during that last hand. So these 38 players will come back on Saturday, and then we'll stream Cards Up coverage on GGPoker's Twitch channel. David Williams and I on the call. I mean, just if you guys want to tune in, it's just the World Series of Poker main event. It's the final day. We're going to crown a champion, award a bracelet, award more than $3.9 million. Pretty sick turnout and pretty stacked field.
Yeah, I'm looking over some of the names that are still in contention for this title and the big payday, and a couple that stick out to me are a pair of bracelet winners in Michael Leck, who won his bracelet in the WSOP.com portion. It's also an 8-time WSOP circuit ring winner. Just always seems to be putting himself in a position to win, and here he is still in contention. And also Arkady Sinis goes by Kamsky or Kamsky on his online name. He's a big circuit grinder, bracelet winner, just another one of those guys who is always in contention. That's from the American perspective. These are 2 American guys I'm very familiar with. Of course, this is GGPoker. It's an international affair, and that is, you're looking over the list of players and the countries represented. It really is a worldwide international affair.
Yeah, I think most notably you have Ben CB, one of the greatest online players of all time, Benjamin Roll, who is still alive. He has almost 11 million in chips. And you have Stefan Schlabel, along with Chris Brewer, Freak Schulten, so Sam Vousden, Jonas Lauk. There's some pretty big names in the hunt for this title, for this bracelet, for almost $4 million.
So randomly, also, let's just call it like we see it. Bryan Piccioli's name is Somebody Suck Me. So I just wanted to make sure we point that out.
So have you guys, do you guys get that reference? I have not seen this show Dave, which I think that is from. Have you guys watched Dave before on FX, or are we 0 for 3 here?
0 for 3.
No, not
clearly a very obscure reference.
Yeah, I know it's very obscure, but he was tweeting at the star of the show, and there was some buzz about why he chose his screen name to be Somebody Suck Me. And so I guess we'll have to tune into Dave over these next couple days before the final day of the World Series.
I don't care what it's from, but I love it, and it's definitely going to garner some fun and some attention either way. And also, I'm curious because obviously he's an American, right? Mm-hmm. And according to PokerNews.com, he has played in both of the series, right? The sort of stateside WSOP.com version, and also now in GGPoker. So I'm just wondering, how did he do this? Did he go to Mexico?
Yeah, he's in Mexico. I think with Upeshka de Silva, they posted some Instagram stuff. So they're in Rosarito Beach. They're just chilling, living the dream, taking 5 days off before coming back as chip leader of the main event. Tough life.
Dude, I love it. And he's just hands down I think I say this, there's a lot of pretty nice, great guys in poker, but that was a really magical final table, and he was definitely the perfect fit there, and just such a wonderful guy with a wonderful story. Remember the whole heartwarming thing with his dad, and they were going to bring his dad out, and they had learned poker together. And I I love those guys. And then I remember Bryan ended up going to the UK, and he spent like a couple days. He went to where John Hess lived, and they like went and traveled around together a little bit and showed him the sights. And I just like, I'm a big Bryan fan. So of course we wish him luck, not that we pick favorites, but if we did, good luck to him. Right. All right. Well, do you guys want to talk a little bit about some of the other key bracelets? Do we want to go over all the bracelets? Do we want to do it in this I guess we should talk about the Poker Players Championship. I know you were on the call, right, Jeff? On the call.
Well, I mean, I was on the call. Thank you for bringing that up. I would have never brought that up, Sarah, so I'm glad you did on GGPoker's Twitch channel. It was just a massive win for Christian Rudolph. It says it in the headline of the Poker News write-up by Shirley and Yori. Christian Rudolph wins it for more than $1.8 million. I mean, just another one of these sick Germans who played really well throughout the final table. Did he get a little bit lucky? Sure. Another big storyline, Jason Kuhn had the chip lead, as we mentioned on last week's podcast, going into the final table. Kuhn ran pretty bad and ended up finishing in 7th place for $285K. Shankar Pillai finished in 3rd. A former World Series of Poker main event final tableist, Aram Zobian, finished in 5th. And it was Big Cooney once again finishing in 2nd place. So he finishes 2nd in the 25K. He already has a 2nd place finish at the World Series of Poker. He finished 2nd in the USPO main event. He finished 2nd in a big time Poker Masters event. So he's still looking, I know he has a win in a 10K side event, but I think he's still looking for that real signature win. He was oh so close there, but Christian Rudolph got him in the end to win that Poker Players Championship and more than $1.8 million.
I think maybe the best way to do this, Jeff, is let's just alternate like we have in the last few shows, rattle off some more of these winners. I'll go ahead and I'll go next. Event number 73, which was a $1,000 buy-in, 6-handed no limit hold'em event, got 2,202 entries. Coming out on top of that was Canada's Jim Lefterook, goes by Grouse Grind, took down just shy of $300,000 and a WSOP Europe package. Also notable on that final table was Argentina's Ivan Luca, coming in 4th place for $115,000.
Event number 74, the $1,500 pot limit Omaha event, 972 entries, prize pool of almost $1.4 million. This one was won by Thi Truong, taking home more than $215,000. 2nd place, Enrico Kamoshi, who has won a bracelet earlier in the GG series. Jao Sameo finished in 4th, Kyle Bowker in 6th, and Sean Winter in 8th.
And event number 75, the $300 buy-in double stack no limit hold'em. This is another one of those big turn a small buy-in into a big payday. 3,552 entries, got a $991,000 prize pool, and coming out on top for $130,000 was Norway's Trygve Lighty, goes by Full Send Wig as his screen name. Also at that final table, finishing in 9th place was Connor Drynan, took home $9,400. That's when big money's on the line, it's always interesting, these final tables, right? $300 buy-in, this is great, but Connor Drynan makes the final table, 9th place for $9,400. Okay, it's a nice little payday, but you're only 8 players away from the title and $130,000. It's some big swings at these final tables.
And for Connor, there's an extra $100K up top, right? Because he has that bracelet bet with Daniel Negreanu. They both are at 0 bracelets with just about a week left in the series. Event number 76. I mean, you mentioned it, small buy and big payout. That continued here. 4,461 entries in the $400 40 stack no limit hold'em event for a prize pool of almost $1.7 million. Our winner out of Lithuania, Gediminas Uselis. Nailed it, obviously. He wins more than $211,000 in event number 76.
Don't worry, Jeff. I'm going to probably butcher this name in event number 78.
You got it.
$1,000 turbo 8-handed, got 1,910 entries. Coming out on top was Finland's Adnan Hasialioglu.
Yep, nailed it.
Goes by Bolazar online.
That's so good. Like, look out, guys.
Took home $260,000. Tim West, a United States pro I'm very familiar with, coming in 3rd place, and that one for $143,000.
Sweet. And Sarah, back to you.
Yeah, good work, you guys. All right. Well, Chad, in fact, talked to Faraz Jaka. Chad, why don't you let us know what you guys talked about, why you guys were talking? I actually haven't seen him in ages, and I'm excited to hear the interview also.
Yeah, it was kind of the same thing with me. I hadn't really seen him or heard from him too much. And then he came out, I seen on social media with a new vlog that he had released. And so I retweeted it. You know, it was a great vlog. And he messaged me a couple hours later and said he had messed up something with the post and asked if I would retweet it again. You know, he had to delete it and send it out again. I said, sure, no problem. And you know, this line of communication was open. And I said, you know what? He'd be a great guest for the podcast. We haven't heard from Faraz for a little while. He's down in Mexico grinding the GGPoker bracelet events. And, you know, this vlog was pretty cool, pretty interesting. I had a lot of questions I wanted to ask him. So I said, come on the Poker News podcast. And he was kind enough to do it. So here is my interview with Faraz Jaka. All right, I am with my guest. Very excited to speak with Mr. Faraz Jaka, joining me from all the way down in Mexico, where you were on the online poker grind. You just released a vlog detailing the last month or so of your exploits down there. You know, what's it? I mean, it looks amazing. The house you're living in, it looks amazing. How has it been down there?
It's been a blast. This is my first time to Cabo, and I didn't research anything about it. I just came here to play online poker. So kind of everything I'm discovering here is kind of a hidden gem. And yeah, the house is amazing. Casa Mariposa, if for those of you saw the vlog, pretty badass spot right on the beach. And yeah, I'm having a blast. The grind is absolutely insane. This whole COVID thing started, and I think like ACR did a series at first, and then WPT announced their partnership with Party Poker. They're doing PokerStars threw in a new series, the World Series, GGPoker. It's just like, at the beginning, it was like, oh, like these are really good tournaments. I can't miss this. Like, you know, as a tournament player, you know to like jump on value. Like, you don't know how long it's going to last. And now, just like every month, there's just more and more amazing stuff to play that now I'm like, all right, I need to manage myself so I don't burn out. Like, the hours are just absolutely insane.
You know, speaking of like time management, after I watched the vlog, I thought to myself, like, it not only takes up, encompasses a lot of time, like it was a month worth of your travels or what have you, boiled down into 15, 20 minutes. The time, because of the quality of it, was awesome. I'm curious, like, do you edit those yourself, or, you know, do you have a person that does that for you? What's it like putting together a vlog like that?
My wife. She's an awesome editor. She helps me with a lot of my marketing. I'm doing a lot of the film. I love just like producing content. I stopped playing poker for about 3 years. That was about 5 years ago, and I was doing a startup. And that was where I really got my first exposure to kind of doing marketing, like making videos, writing scripts, and that kind of stuff. So I just got really into it, and I genuinely just enjoy it now. That's actually how me and my wife met. So she was working on a lot of stuff with me. So now she's just like, yeah, if you want to do any fun videos, like I'll edit it. And, we come up with some stuff that's good together. So, it's cool. And, hope to do some more of it. Just kind of exploring a bit right now. You know, I started doing Twitch streaming. That was the first vlog I ever put out. And, I'm just kind of exploring like different ways to put myself out there and create content and see what people like, and, hopefully do some more of it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited about it because if you would have asked me which poker pro do you think would make for, should get into vlogging, would make a great vlog series, your name certainly would have been close to the top of that list, because you've just been traveling the world for many, many years. You know, you got that reputation of being like a poker nomad. Your stories are incredible. I was listening to you recently on Kara Scott's The Heart of Poker podcast not long ago, where I know you went into details about, the online poker venture and the marketing that you kind of just mentioned. You were also somewhere in the South Pacific during like a typhoon.
There's a cyclone in Fiji, and Category 5 cyclone in Fiji, like strongest cyclone to ever hit landfall, like about 200 miles an hour wind. And funny you mentioned that with the footage stuff. So during, so many of my awesome travels, I used to record so much stuff, and it would all just go into my Dropbox, and I never did anything with it. Just like wasn't able to put the time into kind of putting it together. So that's been awesome that now I have some help that I could actually like know that, all right, this isn't going to just get wasted into a folder. It's actually going to get out there. So yeah, a little excited and motivated to kind of cover some of the journey again.
Well, I'm definitely excited to see it. I'm sure a lot of poker fans are. Let's talk a little bit about what's happening in the world right now with the pandemic and how that is at odds, if you will, with the lifestyle you were kind of, you were jet setting, you were traveling the world a long time, but now I know you're married. It seems like maybe you're kind of settling down a little bit more. Yeah. And now the pandemic's here that really forces everybody to settle down a little bit. What's it been like for Faraz Jaka during this time?
So it's funny. My wife and I have this ongoing joke about when we're actually going to live somewhere. Where do we live? And I guess the kind of idea was to stop traveling as much and be more settled. But my wife's actually a bit of a vagabond herself. She's Brazilian, but lived in London, lived in Bali, lived in Buenos Aires. So, we totally have the same vibe there. And, the last year we really just spent traveling, like a month here, 2 months there. So, we may continue kind of doing that sort of lifestyle. Obviously with the COVID stuff, we're definitely more just like, all right, we're going to like spend 3 months in Mexico. And I really can't say what's after that. We've like started making some light plans, but it's just like everything's just so up in the air in terms of like where you could even get into that we're like, all right, there's no point in making plans more than like a month in advance. So, we have some plans to maybe go to Brazil, spend a few months there, maybe go back to Vegas, maybe go back to California, maybe go to Europe. I can't get into Europe right now anyways. So, I can't even remember the original question you asked.
No, I mean, I think you explained it well as far as what life is like for you right now, because you were able to go to all those places on a whim before. Yeah. And now you're just kind of, not just you, all American poker pros are boxed in as far as options are concerned.
So the way I'm really treating this is I really like to go and enjoy life, but I also really enjoy periods of like grinding my ass off and just putting in a lot of work. So, I'm really treating this pandemic as the way I treat really rainy, shitty, cold, snowy days when I lived in Chicago, where I'd be like, all right, the weather sucks. Like everyone's complaining. Rather than complaining, I'm just going to like get all my stuff done and like go in the cave. And then when the weather's nice, I'm going to go hang out again. And so I'm kind of treating this pandemic as, a 1 to 2 year lock myself in a cave, be really productive and earn myself some free time when things are back to normal.
Yeah, I often have to remind myself that you spent a lot of time in Chicago. As somebody who lives not too far from there, I'm very familiar with those shut-in days when the weather is cold and winter is coming, as they say on Game of Thrones. Tell me a little bit about the guys who were down there at the Grindhouse with you. We got introduced to them in the vlog itself.
In the video.
And
I wish they were here right now. I'd have them come say what's up. But
they seem like some characters there.
My buddies Kevin Yu, Arlen Goldberg, both recreationals. So, these are my friends that will show up to the World Series to play like the 3 events they planned every year, or once in a while I'll convince them to like show up at Hard Rock. Or I'm always trying to get them to come to my like European tour events, and they always want to come but never could make it. And now they're just like working full-time remote. So I'm like, poker trip in Cabo? They're like, hell yeah. So it's super fun to kind of get some of your like non-poker friends that play poker for fun to be able to come and spend, extended time on these events with you. It's been a blast for them, like kind of a dream type trip to just go travel and play poker and then work at the same time. So we had some fun prop bets and stuff, and I posted on Twitter. Check those videos out if you haven't seen them already.
And I know in the video you actually surprised one of them by bringing his brother down to spend time with you guys in Cabo.
Yep. We had everyone take a coronavirus test before, because we were quarantining pretty heavy, and we're like, all right, if we're gonna do this, let's do it right, let's do it safe. No one wants to get sick here. We had him take the test, and he showed up and surprised Arlen. He was pretty geeked out.
I want to ask you a question. This just stems from knowing you like I do after watching the vlog and then just talking about Fiji here. So I'm a big fan of Survivor, the television show, which films in Fiji. And we had Ronnie Barda, poker pro, who was on the show not long ago. And it just strikes me, if I had to come up with a list of poker pros who would be great for a competition, a show like Survivor, you would be right up there. Is that anything like that ever crossed your mind?
Man,
It seems
So I haven't really watched the show much, but you're like the third person that said that to me in like the last year. I think I started asking some more questions about like what it's like. And it sounds like you just need to figure out how to survive, whether that's through, physical skills or being able to form relationships and friendships. And yeah, I would actually love that type. I love strategy. I love kind of the game of socializing and kind of figuring out where you fit in and where to add value and how to kind of get people kind of behind you to support kind of your ideas. So yeah, that does sound like something that's super fun that, I could possibly be interested in.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to see it. Poker players don't have a great track record on the show, unfortunately. Ronnie Barda was the first one gone. But I remember first thinking that when I was listening to the aforementioned podcast with Kara Scott, when you were talking about basically weathering that cyclone and, the power being out, the windows getting broken out, and then, the lack of information, the isolation, and just, I'm like, you went through that the way that you did. And I'm like, he's got the mental fortitude to do really well.
And I watched, that was the first time I watched Survivor. I saw Ronnie's episode and I instantly my brain was just like, oh, like you can't say these things. You got to say these things like to kind of get people to like you and to, not think of you as an enemy. So I think I would love that. And as some of you guys already know, I did 10 days silent meditation retreat. I do feel very strongly about being able to kind of keep myself composed and like rational and not get emotional like when things are tough.
Last question, I guess then too, especially now that things, the world has slowed down, if you will. If I had to pick a poker pro who I'd want to read a book about their life, their, experiences, you would be right up there too. Is that something you've ever given any thought to?
Yeah, I definitely want to write a book. I feel like I'm doing so many different things right now that I just don't have the time to dedicate to it. I really, really do want to write a book though. So I'd like to do that at some point. I don't know if that's going to be like in the next few years or maybe something more like 5-10 years from now. But yeah, I'd be disappointed if I didn't write at least 1 or 2 books. And as far as like content goes for that, like, I'd be very interested in writing about, maybe a lot of the things I've learned just like living on the road without a permanent home and that kind of lifestyle, kind of pros and cons of it, kind of viewing society from like that outside lens, or maybe something more kind of poker strategic of all the, I'm really big about all the edges you can get like outside of just the poker strategy.
Sure.
Like observing people, like talking to them on their breaks, just I don't want to say too much because that would be like revealing a lot of the fun kind of secrets. But I'm the type of guy on the basketball court that's always like diving for the loose balls and trying to find like every edge, even if it's just like hooking a guy's shirt a little bit or like, getting in his head. And I like to apply that to the poker table as well. So I definitely think there's like a book that could be written there as well.
Yeah, I mean, I'd certainly love to read it, and I think a lot of poker fans would too. But in the meantime, great things from you, and content-wise, like you said, lots of content. If poker fans want to follow you on Twitter, Instagram, it's @Faraz Jaka. You're streaming on Twitch @Faraz Jaka Poker, and now, of course, you have the YouTube channel with the vlogs. And I'm assuming we can look forward to some more of those in the future, hopefully.
Yeah, definitely. I got to figure out if the world's gonna allow me to travel or not. But hey, maybe if I can't travel too much, I'll still throw some interesting vlogs up. So yeah, definitely keep an eye out.
Always good to hear from one of the longtime regulars and tournament grinders who really, he always has his hands in some interesting stuff, a businessman, he's definitely delved into quite a lot of interesting things. So I always appreciate dynamic players such as Faraz Jaka. Now, speaking of talking to players that have sort of been around for a while and in the live tournament circuit for a while, Antionio Esfandiari had his heart ripped out when allegedly close to $1 million worth of things were stolen from his place in Panorama, including his big one. Is it a bracelet? I guess it's just like a badass bougie bracelet. His big one for One Drop Bracelet, which he said was really the most heart-wrenching part of the thing. Chad, what did he say to you?
Yeah, so this news first broke in the Las Vegas Review-Journal. They're on the top of things in the crime beat in Las Vegas, and this one, must have hit the wire there. As soon as I read it, of course, we were going to write about it for PokerNews. So Mo Nuara drummed up the story. You can read that on PokerNews. Just go over there, type in Antionio Esfandiari in the search bar, and it'll come up. But I've got a really good relationship with Antonio, and I said, you know what? Let me reach out, see if he wants to talk about this, if he would issue some sort of statement. And he did. And so what it basically boiled down to was this, is we all know Antonio Esfandiari is very close with his dad. Whenever you see Antonio, his dad is usually there, watching him play. They got like a kind of best friend sort of relationship. And this woman had some sort of relationship with his father and basically took advantage of his father. And so that's what really ripped out Antonio's heart, is that he watched his father kind of get bamboozled or taken advantage of, or whatever the situation may have been. And this woman had some sort of relationship with his father, so she was around, and she'd been in the condo before, and it was somebody that they trusted. And what she ended up doing was figuring out the combination to the safe. It ended up being a play on the kind of codes they used for their devices, like their iPads or phones and things like that. So she became familiar with those. She futzed around on the safe and managed to figure it out, and stole all sorts of money, casino chips, and the bracelet, as Sarah mentioned. Seems kind of silly to me, given that she has to be the number one suspect, right? Like somebody who has access and possible motivation. Anyways, it did get sussed out. She did get arrested. As far as what Antonio will be able to recoup remains to be seen. And he did issue a very short statement to PokerNews. I'll read it real quick. He said, quote, "The string of emotions that jolted through my veins were filled with anger and pain, realizing that my one-drop WSOP bracelet was no longer mine, a dagger to my heart. But worse than all that was knowing that somebody stole from my dad. He's the most special human on earth, and it killed me that someone would do something so selfish to him. That was the real pain. The universe has a funny way with karma, and what goes around always finds a way to come around." And so as it stands right now, it's a court matter, a police matter. She has been arrested, and Antonio has told me that when it is resolved in the courts, that he will join us here on the PokerNews podcast, give us a little exclusive interview, and really share all the details and the whole story as soon as he's able to.
Well, that's awesome, Chad, that you were able to track Antonio down for that little bit. I mean, that just stings anybody who has a close or even doesn't have a close relationship with their parents to hear that from Antonio. Chad, you said it. I mean, silly to say the least. Not only are you the prime suspect, but then you're taking these large amounts of cash, you're taking these chips, and you're just going to play on the strip. So it's like all of a sudden she shows up with $100,000 at the Aria, and then she shows up with $200,000 at the Bellagio, and rebuys and does this and does that. It's just,
like maybe just go to one of the casinos, like somewhere else, like maybe just hop a flight.
Don't gamble it up in Vegas. Yeah.
You could probably get comped, like if you're going to be spending that much anyways. So I don't know. Yeah, I definitely thought, or maybe just like pump the brakes, like let things like blow over a little bit before you start like busting out the big money chips. Or not to give anyone any advice, but I'm just saying, if I was going to be a thief, like these are just things you might want to consider. And obviously having my truck stolen last year, I can totally relate to the feeling of, it's just such a violation when somebody takes something that's yours and then like uses it like it's nothing, something that's really valuable to you that they can treat like it's garbage.
Not only was this a violation, not only was it a lot of disappointment and pain for Esfandiari, it was a little bit maybe rubbing salt in the wound, because this happened in Las Vegas, and I assume it was when he was playing Phil Hellmuth in the heads-up duel. So he loses to Hellmuth and then has this happen. That's that's got to be a bitter pill to swallow, to lose to Hellmuth and this bad luck. Just not a good week for Antonio Esfandiari.
And he's right about karma, but it's so funny. Like somehow you just imagine that, you know, when someone is caught, that you should receive your things back, right? Or like the money shouldn't the casino cover it? Or like, you know, I hope he has insurance. Maybe his insurance covers it. I think it's pretty difficult to have insurance cover though, like cash and casino chips and stuff like that. So it's just funny. Like you feel that in some way there should be an avenue for you to get your things back because they were rightfully yours. But unfortunately, it's just like, nope, probably just never will. And it's I'm sure he had the One Drop Bracelet insured, but even that, it's like kind of, you know, how do you insure something that has so much sentimental value? You really can't. And I love his dad. I think everyone loves his dad. So depressing. Well, you know, especially I think in this poker world, we are so often confronted by how wonderful, and I think just how much integrity people have, how much charity people have in this industry. And it's unfortunate to see that there's still this seedy side of the gambling business. And you know, generally, I'm glad to say that we don't usually have to deal with that. We usually deal with more the Antonios and the Mr. whatever his dad's name is. Mr. Esfandiari. Well, I made a video yesterday telling you guys everything you need to know about the PokerStars WCOOP, the World Championship of Online Poker. So be sure to check that out if you are looking to figure out what are the best ways to qualify, how long it lasts, yada, yada. But we're already in full gear, guys. We kicked off on Sunday. The action is already happening. Let's talk about some of the things that have gone down in the early days. Our boy Spraggy, Mr. Marley Cadero.
Yeah, how about that? And new WCOOP 2020 champion, as he tweeted the other day. He says, I just won a fucking WCOOP title, 12,192 runners, and I win the whole damn show. Insane. This was WCOOP event number 5, the low buy-in version. Remember, there are 3 versions for each event, a low, a medium, and a high. This was the $5.50 8-max turbo progressive KO freeze out mini Sunday cooldown special edition as a part of the World Championships of Online Poker. And it's Spraggy taking it down for more than $5,000. So I think a nice start for him. I know he had a 9th place finish in a high buy-in version of the event, but just to win a poker tournament with more than 12,000 entries, that's got to feel good. And that's again, cool for PokerStars, cool for Spraggy, and cool for his followers on Twitch.
Yeah, I really like this win, mainly because it was more about the title, about coming out on top of this large field than the payday. Don't get me wrong, the payday is nice, but $5K isn't life-changing money. But to turn $5.50 into that big payday and become a WCOOP champion and have the bragging rights of coming on top of a field of over 12,000 runners, it's awesome. It's a very proud accomplishment. And for somebody like Spraggy, who does the whole Twitch streaming thing, has his own brand, is an ambassador, really does well for his career and his rising star in the poker world.
Rising stars in the poker world. I think we've talked about this on the podcast ages ago, in that, you know, the big poker clients have sort of shifted from trying to sponsor the Rafael Nadals and the, I don't even know, soccer players, whatever, football players, and moved more into focusing on these streamers. And I think that was, you know, such a smart move on so many levels. And one of the greatest things I think about these streamers is that they really are building community. And if you look at sort of the algorithms of YouTube and Facebook, it's like all of these platforms are really pushing for community. Community is obviously, you know, the best way to build a brand, the best way to build loyalty. And, you know, so I think I just really appreciate a lot of these streamers and what they do for the poker industry as a whole, and certainly what they do as being like a combination between poker media and poker players. They sort of, you know, bridge the gap in such a great way. So I love to see them out there doing well. And in other news, I was gonna make some really weird shift where I just said players like Dimitar Danchev, who are super nice but never talk to anyone, are also winning bracelets. Really nice segue. He's like the nicest guy. Kind of a tough interview, but a really nice guy. Is one. Why don't you guys just go ahead, Chad? Why don't you talk about what's going on with old Dimitar?
Yeah, great transition there. Nice segue. Dimitar Danchev, I know him best, and I'm sure most people do, from being a former PokerStars Caribbean Adventure winner. he traveled to a lot of the EPTs, is just one of those grinders and one of the biggest names in poker from Bulgaria. He was in event number 2, the high version, the $10,300 buy-in 8 max progressive knockout Sunday slam. That tournament attracted some of the bigger names, and that was evidenced by the final table. You had Joao Vieira, Mike Watson, Pieter Ertz, Jan Ahrens, and of course Danchev coming out on top. He actually beat Watson heads up. He took down a $152,000 first place prize, but like I said, this was a PKO. So the real money was in the bounty, that progressive bounty, $247,000 combined. He won this for just over $400,000 in the WCOOP title. So that was definitely a big win, and in my opinion, a really good way to kick off the WCOOP, with a big winner, a big win, and a big buy-in tournament.
Well, that's about it for the news this week. I am on all kinds of grinds, trying to purchase a house, maybe, potentially. I don't know. It's kind of crazy. And leaving this apartment, and I did just have a child. I can barely walk. I don't even know what I'm doing with my life, you guys, but just so the Poker News podcast family out there knows, we may or may not be purchasing a house. If you see anything awesome, any smoking deals in Texas, feel free to just let me know. Otherwise, I want to give a shout out to Run It Once, longtime homies of the PN podcast. If you would like to sign up using our bonus code, go to once.run/PNpod. That is once.run/PNpod. Get at us. Let us know, who we should be interviewing, any interesting, cool stories you guys have seen. You can get at me at Auntie Chardonnay, at Chad A. Holloway, at Jeff Platt. Jeff, do you want to shamelessly promote something before I let you go?
I would love to. Thank you so much for asking, Sarah. Very much appreciate the opportunity. Again, normally I wouldn't do this, but since you asked, Saturday, the final day of the World Series of Poker main event, we crown a champion. Bryan Piccioli has the chip lead. Bryan Piccioli just DM'd me and said, Saturday is going to be a real suck fest. You ready? And so here we go. I assume that has more
you
to do with
have to watch the show
Dave.
now.
Right.
Your
Which
research is not poker.
Need to watch the show for sure. We'll be on GGPoker.tv. If Twitch isn't your thing, we'll be on PokerGo's YouTube and Facebook channels. That is Saturday. The coverage starts at 2:30 p.m. Eastern, 11:30 a.m. Pacific time.
Maybe, Jeff, you should talk to Bryan Piccioli, and he should be our guest next week, and you should find out, what is this Dave Suckfest all about?
I will absolutely reach out to him after the World Series of Poker main event has concluded.
Okay, fine. Or you could just do it now, but whatever. It's up to you.
Yeah, but I do it now, but then we air it next week, and then the main event final day has passed.
When is the main event final day?
Saturday.
That's right.
So if I interviewed him today and then we aired it next week, that would be weird,
awkward.
Right?
Yeah, you're right. That'd be awkward. I get it. We're gonna have to really cut it close, though. Cutting it close if we wait for that. Chad, do you have anything you're shamelessly self-promoting?
Yeah, well, not self-promoting per se, but let's take it back to where we started this podcast real quick and talk about live poker. I think one of the things that we're going to see happen, I've already seen it a little bit in the last 48 hours since this event has, came to its conclusion, and in the aftermath, there were a lot of eyes on it, right? A lot of people wanted to know if it would be a success. I think that obviously there's a demand for it from players for live tournament poker. And there have been people from different casinos around the country, different tours, who have reached out asking me a few questions. And I don't know, I'm hopeful that this one event could possibly spur more in the future here in the closing months of 2020. It's hard for these casinos that can operate to not take notice of such a huge field in really the middle of nowhere. And so I don't know, it was an interesting experiment, and I'm very curious to see what it could possibly lead to in terms of live poker moving forward.
Yeah, it's kind of terrifying, actually, when I think about what's possible. I've been living this at-home life for a long time now, and when I started thinking about getting back out in the world, I'm like, we're all going to be real awkward and real not used to it. And yeah, it's going to be a transition. All right, guys. Well, we will get at you next week per the usual. The poker action is not slowing down. That is for sure. We're right into it already in the WCOOP. So we will keep y'all posted. And yeah, wish me luck in this thing. Deuces.
The key to winning big is using every little bit of knowledge to your advantage. At Oddschecker, we give you the edge. Better odds, better picks, and better offers to make you a better bettor. Why settle for less? Quickly compare the odds at every sportsbook to ensure that you're getting the best price to maximize your return. Not only that, but we have experts on every sport, from hoops and football through to soccer and boxing. Our experts analyze the form and study the stats to deliver you totally free picks and parlays. Oddschecker also highlights the most lucrative welcome offers in the industry. If you're looking to open an account, then you are eligible for hundreds of dollars in totally free bets. If you're new to legal sports betting, then we're here to help, offering simple advice to understand betting guides and updates on your state's current legislative situation. Visit us at www.oddschecker.com/US. Oddschecker, sports betting smarter.